Good morning, everybody. Here we meet again today, just 2 days before the accounting examination. I want to apologize for a late start today. We had a technical glitch, but this has been sorted out. Following the program, we're going to have the cash flow statement and the analysis interpretation of financial statements. But I'm going to try to combine the two, the cash flow statement, I'll couple that with the ratio analysis and commentary. So we're not going to have a separate slot for cash flow statement and a separate slot for ratio analysis. We're going to do those two all together at the same time. Maybe just to give you a few hints with regards to the cash flow statement, what is that we've got to take care of come Tuesday next week, the 29th of October, that when you are required to calculate, for example, the fixed asset purchased, what you need to do, if you're not sure of doing the calculation, you're at liberty to draw up the fixed asset or the tangible asset account. The opening balance is taken from the balance sheet. You'll credit it with the closing balance, which should be balance carried down, and we'll bring it down on the debit side as a brought down. And credit the same account with, if there are any disposal assets that have been disposed of, credit the account with asset disposal, carrying value, and depreciation for the year. And the difference should then give you fixed asset purchased. Or alternatively, what you can do is the closing stock, the closing balance plus depreciation plus the asset that has been, plus the value of the asset that has been disposed of, that is the carrying value of the asset that has been disposed of, minus the closing balance of your tangible assets. Then that should give you the fixed assets purchased. To another area that I know most learners, or that troubles most learners, is the determination of taxation paid as well as dividend paid. Handling, say, first dividends paid, what you need to do is when you determine the movement of your payables or your creditors, exclude SARS income tax, if there's any, as well as shareholders for dividends. When you determine the movement of your payables or your creditors, make sure that you exclude SARS income tax as well as shareholders for dividends at the beginning as well as at the end of the year in determining dividends paid. Determining taxation paid, what you need to exclude in determining the movement is SARS income tax. That is very important. Otherwise, if you include that, you'll have your figure, your taxation paid or your dividends paid wrong. What we're going to do, because there's just no time for teaching as such, we're going to go through a few exercises or few questions drawn from the past year's question papers. So just to check whether we understand what the cash flow statement is all about and how to prepare that, and how to analyze, how to do the calculations, ratio calculations, and to interpret the ratios. I have on the screen question 1, which is information extracted from the books of Gola Limited for the financial year ended 31st of August 2009. And you are required to use this information to calculate 1, the fixed or the tangible asset purchased, calculate the depreciation of vehicles, calculate proceeds of fixed or tangible assets sold. And you need to refer, of course, to the supplied fixed asset note, which I'll refer to now. I'll take you through right away. There was part of information, you've got that fixed asset note or tangible assets. You're supposed to fill up or complete the fixed asset note by putting in amounts where we have question marks. Where there are question marks, you need to put relevant amounts. To start with, we can go straight to vehicles, or rather, let's attend the question first. The question says, the first question is about in the fixed or tangible assets purchased, and that's for 2 marks. For 2 marks. And let us check here anything about dividends. There you are. Information number C, earnings and dividends per share were as follows. 40 cents per share, that was the interim dividend, sorry. 40 cents per share and interim dividend. And the final dividend was declared at 32 cents per share. Final dividend. Right. How many shares